In this video, we'll be comparing the differences between factors and multiples of a number. Now, let's start off with comparing the factors and multiples of 4 and 6. Now, what are the factors of 4 and 6? Or basically, what are the numbers that we need to multiply in order to get 4 or 6? Which numbers can we divide 4 or 6 without having remainders? So So the factors of 4 are 2 and 2 because 2 times 2 is equal to 4. We could also write 4 divided by 2 is equal to 2 and we have no remainders. And the factors of 6 are 2 and 3 because 2 times 3 is equal to 6. We could also say 3 is divisible by 2 because 2 goes into 6 3 times. Or we could say 3 divides 6 into 2 parts. Now, looking at our pattern here, we could see that factors of a number are basically part of our number. Factors are the numbers that we need to multiply to get our number, or the numbers that we could divide without having remainders. And as you guys could see, while we draw the factor tree, the numbers that we try to compare, they may also share common factors as well. So a common factor of 4 and 6 is 2 because 4 is divisible by 2 and so is 6. We could also say 2 times 2 is equal to 4 or 2 times 3 is equal to 6. Now let's move on to comparing the multiples of 4 and 6. So a multiple of a number is basically the the quotient that we get, I'm sorry, the product of what we get after multiplying our number by an integer or by a whole number, whether that be positive, negative, or zero. So let's take a look at our patterns here. And the multiples of 6. We'd also multiply by 0. So do you see a pattern in the multiples of our numbers? As you see, 4 times 1 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 3 is 12, times 4 is 6, or 4 times 0, times negative 1, and so on as our multiples. So another way of writing this is basically, so 4 times an integer is basically a multiple of 4. 6 times any whole number, whether that be positive, negative, or 0, is a multiple of 6. Now, as you see, while we were comparing the multiples of 4 and 6, we can also see that 4 and 6 also share some common multiples, such as 24, because 4 times 6 is equal to 24, and 24 is a multiple of 4, and 24 is a multiple of 6. So 4 or 6 multiplied by a whole number, we could get 24. But how about 12 as well? 12 is a common multiple of 4 and 6. But how do we find the least common multiple of 4 and 6 without drawing our long line of tables of the multiples of 4 and 6? Well, to do that, we have to compare the factors of 4 and 6. So to find the least common multiple of the two numbers that we try to compare, we take all of the common factors they have in common, which is 2, and then we take out the remaining numbers that was not grouped in to find the greatest common factor. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is equal to 12. Now, how does this work? Why is it that when we want to compare the least common multiple of the two numbers that we try to compare, we have to take the greatest common factor of the two numbers and also multiplying them by the other numbers that were not grouped in to find the greatest common factor? So to explain this, we could agree that 2 is a factor of 4 and 6. And then we have our multiples of 2. Now, do you see how 2 is a factor of 4 and 6, and also 12 is a multiple of 4 and 6? So the numbers that we were comparing, 4 times 3 is equal to 12, and 2 times 6 is equal to 2. Now, for the least common multiple, we took the, the greatest common factor of 2. 2 is the greatest common factor of 4 and 6. And then we multiply the other remaining numbers that was not grouped in, just as I explained before. 2 times 2 is equal to 4. 4 times 3 is equal to 12. And that's how we find the least common multiple of the two numbers that we try to compare.